custom paint jobs are seriously cool. Everyone loves a really bling, sparkly paint job, but is custom paint just for pros like Peter Sagan or Mark Cavendish? Well, no, of course it isn't. So to find out how you can get a bike custom painted and what it involves, I've come here to Business As Usual in Bristol in the UK, because inside here is Colourburn Studio, who are specialists in custom painting bikes. I'm going to find out what it involves and how you can go about getting your bike custom painted. Rob at Colourburn Studios is a master of his trade and has painted the bikes of national champions and also many of the custom Argon 18 bikes of the Astana team last season, including Miguel Angel Lopez. So let's go in and take a look at some of his work. He's actually going to do some custom painting for us as well. Can't wait.
Come in.
So this is where the magic happens.
Yeah, some people would say that. He just happened to walk in on some of the last stages of Connor's. That's his 2019 bike. Yeah, should be finished up on that next week. Yeah, just having a few little last graphics put on and that one's going out the door.
This is Connor Swift, national champion, well, British national champion on the road. That's looking pretty tasty, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty different to his other one, was kind of like wild paint splashes. Genesis wanted something a bit different for this one, but they're pretty easy. They just put me straight in touch with Connor and just kind of let him choose what he wanted, and he said he wanted some crazy snow camera type stuff, so that's what we went for.
Well, you've kindly agreed to paint a stem
yeah,
to show the custom painting process. I have a confession to make though. We did actually send the stem like a few days ago because it needed to be primered in order to...
Yeah, the primer is probably the only thing I can't do for you today because it needs a good 24 hours to cure. So the first initial steps I did on this were standing it. This was an anodized stem, it didn't have any paint on it originally. You can get them media blasted if you want to, or with this one I just keyed it up and removed the logos from it to give the primer something nice to stick to, flattened it off, and then before I primered it, I masked off all the clamping surfaces because you don't really want paint on a clamping surface because it'll crack, and also on tight tolerance spaces like the inside of the steerage tube here and where the handlebars clamp onto, there's not much space for paint, and if you try and slide that onto a steerage tube, you're obviously going to get issues with the paint.
So that's why you've got all that tape and masking there to stop any paint.
There's vinyl masking tape on the insides is just to stop paint getting into places you don't want it, basically.
This is an aluminium stem, but what would have been different if it had been a carbon stem?
As far as stems go, there's not that much in it, to be honest. You treat the initial process the same, you remove the factory graphics. A lot of the time they'll come with graphics which are actually sort of like dry, wet transfers underneath the lacquer, and you'll be able to feel them under the lacquer. So you either want to remove them completely, or at very least flatten them off, so you can't feel them anymore, because otherwise you'll feel them underneath the paint after you've painted it.
We're using a stem, but the principles, I guess, still apply to a whole bike frame as well.
It's different when you do a bike frame, because with aluminium, steel, stainless steel, titanium frames, you can have them media blasted, which is a process like sandblasting, where you can remove all the old rust, grime, paint, factory paint quite quickly and easily with that process, which you can't do on carbon because it will just destroy the carbon frame. So carbon frame you have to treat very gently and remove all the factory graphics and paint by hand, which is quite a long and grueling process. But because with stems, because it's not such a big, huge thing, you can just sort of get away with just keying it up a little bit, especially if you're just doing a little home project. It's not something you have to go into super detail on. Getting a nice smooth surface for the paint. And the thing with primer is it's
soft, isn't it?
It is quite soft, but I mean you can see already the difference you've got in the smoothness there to there. I mean you can't really see it, but feel it to the touch.
Yeah, you can feel that.
If you're doing a big project, like if you're doing a whole bike, you want a dust mask for this because it's not nice stuff to be breathing in.
If you didn't sand the primer down, what would be the effect on the finish?
A lot of the time, especially with a finish like this, you'll be able to see, you'll get like an orange peely sort of effect on the primer, which is because it comes out quite thick from the spray gun. That's
like a little bit moth.
Yeah. So I mean, even if you you've been doing it for years, because primer's quite thick, you always want to make it, sand it to get it nice, totally smooth. But you're also, you're keying it up and you're enabling the paint to get a sort of chemical bond and a mechanical bond to the primer, which if you just painted the paint straight on top of the primer without sanding it, it's like you're letting the next coat that goes on top sort of absorb into it a little better, and that will make it bond much better than if you just paint the primer, the base coat straight on top of the primer. Most time, if you're doing a big bike frame, I'll mix up a big cup of a specific colour that I'm using. Because this is just a stem, it's only a small part, I'll use one of these pots, which are, it's just the exact same paint, but these are all I use for airbrushing. It's just the paint that I mix up out of a tin, but instead it's all got thinners already mixed into it, so I can just put it in the gun. It's good to go. It just saves a bit of time and saves waste. As you can see, nothing fancy, just straight black.
Stem's been baked now, so let's get it out.
There you go, it looks exactly the same as before. It's just dry now. So now we're ready to put the chroma coat on it, which will give it that funky colour changing effect. So that's had the chroma coat on, so you can see now it's got the sort of basic colour flip effect. It still looks a bit muted at the moment, it hasn't got any lacquer, but we're going to put this in the oven again for a bit, and then after that we'll be ready to do the star effect, speckle kind of thing.
I have to ask, Rob, what are the most exotic colour finishes that you do on bikes and components?
Well, you've got, I mean, you can do real complex stuff like this, which is really exotic, but that's just sort of labour intensive with lots of masking, lots of shapes and things on there, lots of colours. So that's one end of it. Or you can go with stuff like candy finishes are always popular. They look really simple, but they're a lot more involved than they look. That's basically, it's a clear tinted lacquer which goes over like a highly reflective silver base coat. It gives it that sort of depth, so it looks like you can reach in and grab it. And then you've got other things like fades, which are always popular. Matte finishes are always nice. And then you've got something like this, which is like way at the other end, which is a totally hand-painted, brushed effect to give it like a kind of marbly kind of effect.
It looks like an impressionist painting.
Yeah, something like that.
That's awesome.
This also has graphics, which is done in a variegated bronze leaf. It is horrendously fiddly.
How do you do it? Do you have to like cut it out with a knife?
No, it's a similar way to the way you do normal paint stencils and graphics. It's just you basically put down a glue, it's called size, which is like a super old-fashioned sort of glue that you brush through a stencil and then apply this over the top. And I've actually got this on a bike that this was the sample for outside.
All right, let's go have a look.
So yeah, this is Genesis Volare 931 disc. I did it for Bespoke last year as a collaboration with Genesis, and this has got all that bronze leaf which I just showed you used as graphics, and that's what it looks like on a bike.
That is absolutely stunning, isn't it? Do you reckon the chroma coat's done now?
Yeah, it should be. Let's go and check it out. Definitely. Let's have a look. That's nice and dry. Ready for the next stage, which is going to be the little starry speckle effect.
That looks wicked. It does look really good.
So yeah, that's still just base coat. It's yet to have a coat of lacquer on, so it'll pop a lot more once the lacquer goes on, but that's the basic effect. So next stage is to put the first coat of lacquer on, and that's not nice stuff. It's a 2-pack product. It's what protects this paint, because this paint is really fragile, and if you scratch with your fingernail, it'll come off really easy. The lacquer is what protects the colours, and it's, yeah, 2-pack product, which means you mix a hardener into it, and it contains horrible isocyanates, which are very toxic. So I'm going to put on my special air-fed respirator equipment and get that done now.
Right, I'll go and hide over there then.
Stand over
you can go and put your hazmat suit on.
So there's the first coat of lacquer on there. As It's nice and glossy now, nice and shiny. That's the
Really
first protective coat.
Makes it pop.
It does.
Really.
That's the whole thing with lacquer. It just makes everything more vibrant, and you can really see that it really catches the light now. It's now when you move it around. So normally I'd leave that till tomorrow to do the next stage, but we're going to pop it in the oven, speed things up a bit, and that'll be ready for doing the graphics in a bit.
While the first coat of lacquer is curing in the oven, we now get on to the bit that is the cherry on top of the cake, the graphics. So how do we go about getting the graphics on the stem?
You guys sent me over a graphics file, which I'll show you in a minute, which we cut out of this stuff, which is called a stencil mask. It's similar to the sort of vinyl you make stickers out of, except it's got real low tack on it, so it doesn't stick permanently, and it's kind of see-through, so it's easier to see what you're doing underneath. I've then adjusted this slightly to the sizes we need it to be to fit on the stem, lined up a few of them because inevitably one of them won't cut right or you apply it wrong, so it's always best to have a spare. So then they're set up, ready to go. So I now transfer them into the Roland software, which controls this guy. So this guy is basically, it's got a blade in there, which is CNC controlled, and it's exactly the same as you would do, say if you were cutting them out with a scalpel, but it's got a computer telling it what to do. So these are our graphics that we cut. So now I'm just going to start weeding them out. So I've just given the stem a quick sand with some P800 just to flatten it off a little bit and give the next layer of silver paint something, a little bit of a key to stick to. And it also makes it nice and flat before we do the final coat of lacquer. But now it's ready to apply the stencils and then airbrush on the graphics. Take this, and using the black line we put on earlier, we get it in a nice central spot. It's just like applying a die-cut sticker, really, no different.
That looks bloody amazing.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah, it really pops once the lacquer's on there. Pretty much cured. The paint won't be fully cured for another couple of days at least, but it's fine to handle now. There's one custom painted GCN Galaxy stem. All yours.
Wow. It is beautiful. It is awesome.
It looks different as well when you go out in the sunlight. It'll change the way it looks. Depending on what light it's under, it'll look completely.
How cool is that? Right, so I have to ask you some questions.
Sure.
I know that people watching this will want to know. So how long does it take, typically, if someone gets a custom bike painted, how long does that process take?
Well, I mean, it's very much a how long's a piece of string question. It can be, anywhere from, always try and get everything turned around within 2 weeks of when I start on it. But if it's a really complex job, that could go up to, 3 weeks, sometimes a month. Obviously, that's not solid working on one frame. You're working on several bikes at the same time because the way the paint process works, you need to leave things for a few days at a time here and there. But most projects I get turned around within 2 weeks of starting on them.
A big question. I think a lot of people will be watching and thinking, custom paint, oh man, that's so cool. But surely it's really, really expensive. So I mean, how much does it cost to get a bike frame custom painted? It
can be as expensive as you want it to be. It's similar to to the time involved. It's if you want something really crazy that's really involved with lots of colours, it's going to be expensive. If you want something quite simple with 1 or 2 colours, it can be it's down around the £500 mark. I don't really do anything less than £500 because the time involved it's just not worth the money.
So you've got those probably the most simple paint job we've seen here are the powder-coated steel frames for Red Hook.
Yeah.
Now that's really simple. So how much?
Yeah, they're actually they're going to have graphics painted on top of the powder coat and then have a clear coat put over them. But you can have a powder-coated frame with a fancy painted fork for around about the £200–300 mark.
Well, that sounds like absolute.
So yeah, it's more the simple, and it's really hard wearing as well, powder coat. So it's good, but you can also have cool graphics painted over the top of it.
So if we say that's like the bottom end, and the top end would be something like the Volare we saw.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be going up to somewhere around £1,500–1,600 mark for something like that, with gold leaf graphics and all that stuff, and hand-painted effect. You know, you can. There's over a solid 40 hours, 50 hours work in that. So
it does look absolutely stunning, though.
Yeah, it's worth it in the end, but it's not to everyone's taste. So, you know, if you want to spend that much,
that's the beauty of custom painting. You can have whatever you want, so you can find something that is to your taste that's completely unique to you, which is awesome. But how much would it cost to just like have a stem done as well? I mean, that's surely a.
Well, I mean, I do batches of stems very similar to this, which in Galaxy Paint, which I sell for around about the £150 mark. But they are all done in batches to specific brands. But if you wanted a one-off custom one with your own logos and stuff on, you'd be looking around probably about £175–200, including the cost of the stem. Depending, you know, obviously if it's a very expensive carbon stem, it's going to put the price up.
Yeah. There's just so many hours that goes into.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's a lot more work involved than you might think. It's not just like painting it one colour and putting a sticker on.
Well, thanks very much, Rob.
No problem.
Thanks for the stem, and really appreciate you taking the time to show us how you work and like your skill and everything. It's
no problem. It's my pleasure. Thanks for stopping in. It's been good fun showing someone how it's all done.
Thanks, man. Well, I hope you found this video enjoyable and interesting, and if you have, then please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe to the channel down here. And if you'd like to watch another video, then I'd recommend one on how carbon fibre bikes can be repaired. To watch that, well, click on the stem.